Chapter 42. The Untold Story. The next morning, Ben woke up with a pounding headache, the sun streaming directly into his eyes. He grimaced, remembering just how bright that room could get. He pulled himself out of bed and sat on the edge, cradling his head in his hands with his elbows resting on his knees. A crumpled piece of paper lay on the floor, revealing the truth behind the chaos of the previous night. As memories flooded back, he realized that letter was undeniable evidence of how Sam had lied about a significant part of her life, a lie she had used to justify her strange behavior. All of Ben's understanding of Sam's past was based solely on what she had shared with him. He had never met any of her old friends or family members. When they first crossed paths, she was a single woman with only a few acquaintances. He had fallen in love with a woman who appeared broken but resilient, someone who had fought her way to healing. She was undeniably beautiful, and her intriguing character had captivated him, making him want to chase after her. But now he recognized the truth. He had fallen for a facade. He needed to read that letter again. Dear Ben, since you entered my life, it has been a joyride. Just kidding. It was as rocky as they come. I have to apologize for leaving you like that after such an important moment. There is so much understanding between us that no one can deny we are already in a relationship. I like you so much and prefer you to any of my other friends. Haha, not good enough. Your move last night was so gentlemanly. I always wondered if you would ever ask me or if it would just happen over time. However, when you asked, it became so real to me. I have already told you about my previous relationship and my problem with having children, and you accepted me despite all of that. I would love to say yes to your proposal, but first, I want you to hear about my childhood. Since there is little chance that you'll ever meet my family, you have the right to know who I am and where I come from. If, after reading this letter, you still want to marry me, I will be waiting for you tomorrow at 6 o'clock where I broke your foot for the first time. The letter detailed Sam's youth, her abusive mother and a father who left them, leaving Sam to bear the blame. Her father was a drunk, and she endured horrific abuse whenever one of her pets died, which happened far too often. In her story, she claimed her father insisted on buying pets only to kill them later and blame Sam for their deaths. She also mentioned a metal cupboard where she was imprisoned for hours. This reminded Ben of similar details Pip had told him about. The parallels to the infamous childhood of Dale Lair the Slayer were striking. Ben crumpled the paper again, but with too much alcohol still in his system, he struggled to grasp the full significance of the similarities. All he knew was that he was right, again. As soon as he recovered from his hangover, Ben knew he needed to figure many things out. The disturbing part was that Sam and Dale were from the same state. Could Sam have known Dale, or worse, been related to him? Ben needed coffee to clear his head. He wished he could ask someone why Sam would steal such a horrific story and cling to it her whole life, at the cost of not seeing her parents. They didn't even know they had a grandchild. He spiraled into doubt. Did Sam even have a family? Ben wondered where he could find someone to explain the truth. He had already embarrassed himself once in the doctor's office and didn't want to return until he had more evidence. He didn't know if Sam had any close friends, as Jessica had disappeared without a trace, and he had never spoken to her. Sam had an incredible talent for hiding the truth, sticking to it without fail for years. Her obsession with keeping receipts, notices, letters, and any sort of paperwork, however, could backfire. Ben knew there was a drawer she always kept locked, which contained important documents, passports, emergency cash, and other valuables. He suspected there might be a clue inside. It was a conventional lock, and Ben had no issue figuring out how to open it by watching a YouTube tutorial. As he expected, he found papers neatly organized and archived in boxes labeled with dates. Sam had been smart to hide important information away from home. But what about the mail locker at the post office, as Adele, his private investigator, had suggested? There had to be something in there, but he needed to find the key. After hours of searching, Ben still had no luck. Frustrated and desperate, he sat at the bottom of the bed, feeling like he was searching for a needle in a haystack. His eyes wandered to Sam's sacred corner, a space no one was allowed to touch. Now that so many pieces of the puzzle were missing, Ben noticed hidden items he hadn't seen before. Cautiously, he picked one up, glancing around as if Sam herself might suddenly appear, knife in hand. The corner had not been cleaned in a while, and the dust revealed where each item had been placed. Ben realized he had little to lose at this point. It has to be here, he thought. He began searching the corner and soon realized there was a hidden box among Sam's cigs and medals. He shook it gently. Something was definitely inside. It didn't take long to find the key, tucked away in the same collection. Inside the box were a bunch of large white pills, and that was all. Ben set the box down carefully, making sure it was exactly as he had found it. Sam would certainly notice if anything had changed. Now, his interest shifted to figuring out what the pills were. They bore no signs, markings, or even proper packaging, just a small Ziploc bag, like something illegal. Ben heard the front door open and close, so he carefully placed the box back, ensuring everything was as it should be. Luckily, he spotted a crumpled letter on the floor and slipped it into his pocket, deciding whether to show it to Pip later, knowing she didn't believe his story. As Ben walked downstairs, he found Sam sitting with her head resting back on her chair. Hearing him approach, she opened her eyes without surprise, likely having seen his car parked out front. To Ben, she looked thinner and older than the last time he had seen her, almost a month ago. Ben knelt down and buried his head in Sam's lap, bursting into tears. Sam remained calm and quiet, gently patting his back and whispering, "It had to be done." Once Ben managed to calm down, he realized that it was Sam who actually needed help. While she went upstairs to shower and change, he headed to the kitchen to make her a sandwich and a coffee. When he finished, he collected all the empty bottles and clutter from the night before and tossed them in the trash. Ben noticed that he and Sam had treated each other much better than the last time they had been in the house together. His thoughts were interrupted as Sam came downstairs. She looked better than before, but dark bags still lingered under her eyes, and Ben noticed scratches on her back, markings he had only seen because she was wearing nothing but a towel. "What is it like down there?" he asked. "Not as depressing as one might think," she replied. "They have her under supervision, observing her reactions to medications and deciding dosages. They continue with verbal therapy, too. They let me stay the night with her. The kids all looked calm, and the place was nice and colorful. I'll be staying in a hotel nearby so I can check on her every day." Ben's knowledge of mental hospitals was limited to movies, the first that came to mind being One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, so he felt uncertain about the questions swirling in his mind. "When you said she was medicated, does that mean, did she, like the kids you mentioned, they're calm? Was it like when you look into their eyes and, like nobody is there?" He struggled to utter Jenna's name. She was in a wheelchair, drooling. She had no idea who she was or where she was. Ben couldn't shake off Sam's sarcastic tone. Since last night, he felt like a different person, and he wondered if Sam was hiding something more sinister behind her strange comment. "Has she been asking about me?" Ben brushed aside his discomfort. "When can I come and visit her?" Jenna had indeed asked for Ben, but Sam preferred to respond in a way she thought was best. "You know, one of her problems is not being able to display her emotions unless it's anger or violence. The doctors need to take control first. Maybe seeing you would trigger something new and set her off again." Now, Ben was sure something was wrong. He knew he was being discreetly treated as the main suspect throughout the process. Either he was the abuser or he hadn't done anything about it. Among all of them, Pip was the only one who showed him sympathy, though she also supported the idea of his removal from Jenna's therapy. Still, she was more in his corner than the others were. Sam was busy packing for a longer stay for herself and Jenna. "Why don't you let me drive you up there? You seem tired. I can catch a train back," Ben offered, unsure if Sam was fit to drive. "It's okay. Jenna's morning is busy with therapy and getting to know everyone, so I can rest a little and drive back. It's only 3 hours away." "I don't understand," Ben said, placing his hands on his hips. "Why does it have to be there? Don't we have any institutions closer to us?" It pained him to pronounce the name of the place where Jenna was being kept. "They have the best experience in dealing with children like Jenna," Sam replied. "We're lucky that Blake pulled strings to get her in." Sam's tone turned obnoxious again as she picked up a second suitcase and walked toward Jenna's room. Jenna gave me a list of everything she wanted me to take for her, and since there are limits on what she can have, I need to be very careful to make everyone happy. So, I really need to focus on what I'm taking with me. Sam was hinting for Ben to leave, but all he wanted was to check if she had packed those mysterious pills. As Sam moved from one room to another, gathering what she needed, Ben seized the opportunity to check her handbag. He waited until she walked into the bathroom and closed the door behind her before peeking inside. In a small compartment, he found the Ziploc bag she kept hidden in the box. He quickly put it back just as he heard the toilet flush. "What happened to your nose?" Ben asked, easily connecting the dots between the blood he had found in the bathroom and Sam's noticeably swollen nose, but he needed to test her. "Last night, while I was getting Jenna ready, she got a little playful and accidentally hit my nose. Thanks, by the way, for coming over and cleaning up the mess we left behind." Ben was speechless. He had spent every second of the last 2 months both hating her for what she had done to him and Jenna, and considering forgiving her to start fresh. But seeing how she could pile lie upon lie without flinching while appearing so genuine extinguished any hatred he felt. Instead, he was now scared of how far this woman would go to hide her secrets. What could be so worthy of such deception? The night before, he had found urine and blood on the floor, and Sam framed it as a playful night. What was she telling others about her bruises? Did she blame Ben for any of them? Very likely. Ben lifted her chin with his index finger and stared into her eyes. He couldn't remember the last time he had actually kissed her, and he wasn't going to now. He imagined how easily he could wrap his hands around her neck and squeeze the life out of her. If only that could solve the issues she had caused. Sam pulled away and walked past him. He needed another test. "Have you packed everything? Chargers? Toiletries? They usually have crap in hotels. Medications?" "Yes, I have," Sam replied. "So, you've got everything you need? I can quickly duck into the chemist if you need anything. Do you have any prescriptions I can collect?" Ben wished he could take his last sentence back. "What prescriptions?" Sam was resolute. Ben suddenly wondered if she might be dying or if she had an addiction. "Okay, I'm going to rest for a little while and then I'll drive back there later. Do you think you might have time to come and water the plants, or can I ask one of the neighbors or Simone to do it?" "No, it's okay. I can do it. See you next week. I'll let you know when you can visit her." Ben left the house, closing the door behind him. Now, he just had to wait a week until Sam returned. During that time, he checked on the house a couple of times, watered the plants, and took more of his belongings. He searched everywhere for the extra keys to the mailbox, but couldn't find them. While snooping around, he double-checked that Sam's little box of pills was empty. He needed more time and planning before showing the letter to Pip. Ben knew he could figure it out easily. He was sure Adele would be happy to help him. All he had to do was wait until Sam was back next week, steal one of her pills, and get Adele to use her connections to find out what those pills were for. Ben's wait didn't take long. Sam returned the following Monday to sort through some work. She was fortunate that they offered her remote working options, though she still needed to come into the office from time to time. All he needed to do was let Sam know he needed to pick up his tux for a work function, just to justify his urgent presence. At the same time, Sam was back at home. The moment Ben found a second alone with Sam's bag on Monday afternoon, he checked the same spot where he had found the pills last time. There were more now, suggesting she had refilled her prescription. He pulled out a small bag from his pocket, filled with white, round pills of various sizes he'd purchased from a homeopathic chemist. After carefully comparing them, he found one identical to the pills in Sam's stash. The following Friday afternoon, Ben received a call from Sam. She mentioned she was driving back and that Jenna would be staying with her for the weekend. Worried she might have forgotten to unplug the iron, she asked Ben if he could check it for her when he had time. "Sure," Ben said. "And if you're too tired or more comfortable there, feel free to stay the night," Sam added. "There's a 6-pack of beer in the bar fridge. Help yourself." "Thanks again for checking." "No problem. Say hi to Jenna for me and let her know I miss her, okay?" Sam's call left Ben feeling puzzled. Was she really worried about the iron, and why the beer? She never drank, nor did she have friends over. Could it belong to another guy? Was Sam moving on already? Ben wondered if this was why she was suddenly being so nice. He considered involving Adele in another investigation, but remained concerned about the lab results. Ben went to the house and checked the iron. As expected, it was off and unplugged. The six-pack in the fridge was his favorite brand. It seemed Sam really was being nice, though he couldn't figure out why. Whether she was having an affair or not, Ben decided to take her up on her offer. He would stay the night in the house he paid for and watch the TV he bought. He lay down on the couch, opened a beer, and kept drinking until he felt tipsy and relaxed enough to close his eyes. As Ben drifted off, a familiar figure appeared in the haze of his mind. He had never consciously thought about her this way, but there she was, curvy and playful, draped in a white, see-through dress. "What are you doing here, Pip?" Ben's breath quickened, his heart racing. "Shh." Pip pressed a finger to her lips, moving closer until their bodies were almost touching. She leaned in, her touch soft and warm, each caress sending a shiver through him. He allowed the moment to unfold, caught up in the intensity of the dream. Every movement heightened his senses, drawing him deeper into the fantasy. But the tender haze shattered abruptly with the loud, jarring ring of his phone. Ben didn't need to be fully awake to recognize Adele's distinct, husky voice on the other end. "It's 9 a.m., but I guess you had a rough night. You sound terrible." "Ah, thanks. I feel terrible. I would have called later if I knew you're a party animal, but I thought you'd want the results as soon as possible." "Yes, please." "Okay, the lab guy I know doesn't have access to any advanced labs. The results aren't quite clear, so he couldn't determine exactly what kind of pill it was. What he did find is that it's not a standard medication like you'd buy over the counter, but it also tested negative for dangerous substances. It does have some uppers, not a proper party drug, but definitely homemade. Sorry, I couldn't get much out of it." "No, that's helpful." "Helpful, thanks, Adele." Ben's fury simmered. Sam, who had always been cold and disinterested in bed, was taking uppers? For what? To regain her sexual drive? If he could prove in court that Sam, who wasn't Jenna's biological mother, was on illegal drugs while her daughter needed treatment, he might have a strong case for winning custody of Jenna. Ben couldn't shake the thought that another man might be involved. He needed proof. Sam wasn't careless enough to leave obvious evidence like used condoms or clothing in a house where Ben still had the keys, so he knew he had to be smart about his investigation. He walked upstairs, where any potential action would have taken place, and carefully inspected Sam's bed. There were no stains, but he did find something else, a short, thin hair. Sam's hair was long and blonde. This hair could be hers, but it also resembled the kind of hair a man might have on his chest. Ben picked it up and placed it in a small bag. He then took another hair from Sam's brush and stored that as well. He dialed Adele's number. "Hey, remember how your drug guy was useless? How's your DNA guy? He's solid. What's the case? I've got 2 single strands of hair. Can you tell me if they're from the same person? And if not, if the other hair is from a man or woman? As long as you're not asking for someone's identity, it should be easy peasy. Bring them by and I'll handle it. And stop working weekends, man. You've got a life unlike me." "Yes, ma'am. I'll stop right now." Ben felt sure Sam had a lover and began to devise plans to confront them. He also needed to talk to Pip about Sam's pills and the letter confessing her dark past. The thought brought him back to his recent dream. Ben had always sensed that Pip was interested, and he was rarely wrong. She wasn't the type of woman he'd kick out of his bed,